Behold, I am yesterday, today, and the brother of tomorrow. I am born again and again. I am the unseen force, from whence the gods are sprung, that giveth life unto the dwellers of the watchtowers of the universe. I am the charioteer of the east, lord of the past and the future. I see by my own inward light, Lord of resurrection, that cometh forth from the dusk, as soft as from the house of death. How you like that?
Hello, my name is Luna, and I am still a Maenad. I mean, what's better than devouring wine and men and raspberry-flavored blood on stage like 7 days, pretty much straight through? Being able to devour wine and terrify men every day, of course. I was ought to know a Maenad in the Rite of Jupiter rock opera. And I guess it's been a few years now, which is kind of amazing. It feels like it's been longer to me because I feel like I've known these people for like my whole life. Or a long part of my life anyway. But my background is actually in music. I was musically trained. I went to music school both for saxophone performance and vocal performance. And then I also was in one of the military bands, one of the army bands. And that was pretty much right out of high school. And so it was my course as I had set for myself. But Spirit had other purposes for me. I went through a really bad time of trauma in my life and developed PTSD and wasn't able to sing or play anymore. And that was incredibly devastating to me. And I started getting back after I moved to Seattle around 2006, 2007. I started getting back into music through karaoke and just having a really good time. And I was always intrigued and wanted to be a part of the rock operas. But I didn't think I was good enough because I had gone through such trauma. And for me, it was really hard to reconnect to my music, to any form of music, because it was such a great wound for me at the time. So I started working on that for years and years. And I dated someone, and still am dating him, who is a little bit of a fanboy for Eleusis, and he went with me to a Hecate Sickle Festival, where John and Melissa were presenting about the rock operas before Jupiter, and they sort of convinced me without realizing that they did, that I should definitely go out there and put myself out there and try out for it. And so I did, and that was a transformational experience in and of itself, and I just gave it my all and figured, you know what, at least I tried, I did my best. And I ended up getting a part for Autono, one of the Maenads, and as I've said previously, I'm forever a Maenad at this point. It completely transformed my life. Like I've said previously, they're a lot like family to me, everyone who was a part of the Rites. And it was an amazing experience. So for me, definitely with the wine, I would have wine before I would go out on stage because it would help me to invoke. And when I did performances, I was straight invoked, as the Maenad ought to know. And I just let it flow through me as a priestess, as someone who's been studying many different forms of Wicca and other types of ceremonial magic. For me, being able to invoke really helps to bring the energies down to people who are experiencing whatever it is that I'm bringing to them. So it was a pretty sacred experience for me to be able to connect to that energy. And I even have still on my altar here Lord Dionysus with my Maynard glass, which I will, with my Jupiter, which I'll get to in a minute, my Jupiter planetary sigils in the blessings of Jupiter inside that cup. And they will always be on my altar for Dionysus and for Jupiter. So for me, I definitely invoked, and I definitely will always carry that Maynard energy with me. And whenever I watch these rites, I get invoked immediately. It doesn't even take a minute. I just sip a wine watching the Rite of Jupiter. I definitely become invoked, and everyone just felt amazing and like family to me, and it was such a great experience for me. And doing the Rite of Jupiter on stage was just amazing. I remember I didn't sleep much, but I also remember that I just was in love with like every day of doing that. We had to take crazy showers to get all the blood off, but it was amazing and I loved it. And I would do it again for like weeks on end just because it was such an amazing energy. And Saturn, again, we had a lot of nervousness. I was doing singing in the Aquarius song for the soundtrack, which is playing currently. And that song really, I also did a couple saxophone tracks as well, which stayed with the actual stage show, which unfortunately I was not able to be a part of because I had moved at that point across the country. But during my move across the country, I listened to the Aquarius section of the House of Treasures from the Rite of Saturn, and I listened to that. It had come out it had come out for us who had recorded it, so I was getting emails, and so I was able to listen to it while I was traveling across country, and it was just amazing. And I would sing with it, sometimes cry with it as I was singing, because I was leaving my heart behind in Seattle. And it was just incredibly healing to be able to go through that. Saturn really helped me to transform things in my life, whereas Jupiter opened up doors.
I was around for one of the very first previews of Rite of Luna, where you had all the like dancers and they're white, and you had the satyr crew, and that was really influential as a preteen, young teenager, I must say. So I knew from the very get-go that I wanted to be a part of it. I saw my pagan community coming together, like cross coven, to put on these productions. But at that time in my life, there were a lot of things that I couldn't join because I was too young. So then we get to 2010, and I'm turning 20. Like, definitely that point in my life, I was just raring to go. I had enough resource through my family that I could sustain my base level life, so I was doing like every project I could get my hands on. And now that I was over 18, there were a lot of more projects that were actually open to me. John and Melissa knew that I had been a flow artist for several years at that point, and so they approached me about having this be a part of the show. I said yes because I was saying yes to everything at that point, and I got put in charge of this whole piece of the show myself. It was overwhelming but also awesome, and a really great resume builder for me at the time. I was interviewing other local spinners because I needed people to meet up with me all summer to work on this amazing thing for free. And I was interviewing this couple at the time. Couple of really rad artists in Seattle, Catastrophe and Tyranny Seraflame. I was just supposed to be interviewing tyranny, auditioning, seeing how we got along. And then Kat was there and just happened to be hanging out and knew how to spin a staff, I think, kinda, yeah. So he like just jumped on board and started spinning along with me, and we, all three of us, started to just like gel, and see the good in each other. And it ended up that at the end of the audition, I wanted both of them to be a part of it. And Kat was never really like formally, invited. He just like kept getting CC'd on the emails that I was sending out, and then just showed up, so he was on the show. Yeah, I love those two. So those two, and then Madeline Vesper joined us, and we became the 4 elements for the Rite of Mercury. I was water, which is the element that I had worked with the least at the time, so that was a fun challenge. And I have specific memories of performing at the Broadway Performance Hall. I am a beloved queer kid who grew up in Seattle and got to live on Capitol Hill, which is where the Performance Hall is, which is like Seattle's gay district. And I lived there both as like a toddler and as a young person. And so I really have this connection to the area, and this hall is really iconic. It's beautiful. You see it driving up the street, and to know that my particular brand of weirdos were putting on a show on the Hill, on Broadway, it was pretty awesome.
Confessional time. I completely neglected to mention about the bloodlust. It was a thing. So yeah, if we had a Maynard superlative, mine would probably be either the most bloodlust or the instigator of bloodlust. Because, and I can't believe I didn't remember to mention this previously. I feel like I'm in confessional right now, but I would always get the most blood on me, and I would really go for it. I would like go for the throat. When we saw the tray of goodies coming around for us and it was time, something came over me, and my goal was to see how red I could become. So when I talked about showers every night and like really getting the blood off, I guess what I mean by that is I always had a lot of blood on me, and I would try my best to make sure I instigated that bloodlust in every single Maynard there, because I mean, as like one of the leaders and a sister and such, it is my solemn duty and job. It is my sacred task to make sure that everyone has a pretty high level of bloodlust. And so we would definitely do things like chanting, and we would backstage maybe kind of scare some of the other cast members just for fun, just we wouldn't do anything to them. We're not monsters. We're Maenads.